we are back for a live with another amazing woman physician from our money school. The MoneyFitMD Money School is where women get to once a week get live group coaching from Dr. Latifa, get access to courses, and also access to a private Facebook group where they can chat during the week and ask Dr. Latifa questions there. And it's just an amazing community. And so I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, what kind of doctor you are, and how long have you been in the money school?
Hi, I'm Cara Texler, and I am a hospital pediatrician, and I have been in the money school since I believe it was January 2022.
Okay, so you have been with us for a while, and you are in a very different spot from where you were when you first began with us, correct?
Most definitely.
Yes. So let's start there. Let's tell us, if you could just give us a little rundown of what was your money story before you joined the money school. Where was your head at? What kind of feelings did you have towards money? Just give us a little rundown of where you started.
Sure. I would say if I think back to January 2022, that was a rough time for me. I'll be very honest. And I was at a point in my life where I almost didn't know myself anymore. And I knew that I got to the point though that I knew I didn't know myself. And one of the things that I had convinced myself was that I can't manage money well. I didn't have a lot of evidence other than some other voices in my life that were saying like, you can't manage money, you're not good at money, you can't make enough money. And so I knew though that I was going to make some big changes in my life. And I knew that I knew some of the things that were working in my life, and then I knew some of the things that were not. And one of them was my relationship with money, because it was very fear-based. And so I would say that my sort of ways to deal with those fears was that I tried not to spend. And I avoided looking at my accounts, period. And I would manage them so that I never have to look at them again. That was kind of my strategy. And so if I didn't have to look at it, but I still was able to buy the things that I needed, then I was good.
And how did that impact your life, having that fear base and kind of just not looking? What are some specific ways that really impacted your life as a whole?
I think that it made me live small. Because if you can imagine, like if you're trying to not spend, and you're trying to not look, then you're certainly not, I don't know, Dr. Latifa talks about being the CEO of your life. You're certainly not the CEO of your life. If anything, your money, whether it's there or not, is the CEO. And then the other forces that are kind of involved in that. And so I knew that I needed to change that. And so then I think the other thing in terms of living small, but also trying to be invisible a little bit. And so I think that over the last couple of years, one of the things that I've worked on personally and also embraced is being seen.
That's so good. So you said you knew it had to change at that moment in your life. What was that moment that took you from knowing it needed to happen to actually making the steps to get it done?
I think that I knew that I was going to need to tap into some resources other than myself. And I don't know about all the other specialties in medicine, but certainly in pediatrics, I would say that money is a taboo subject. People, if you want to talk about it at all, the most that people will talk about is like, oh, I have a financial advisor and they handle everything. That's as much as we tend to talk, at least in the Midwest where I live. and I can just speak to my lived experience, but certainly that's that. So I knew that work, certainly, I have a ton of support in other ways, and I support people in other ways, but that financial management is not one of those areas. And I remember, so Latifa and I met in Guatemala at a Spanish school, and she doesn't probably remember this, but I remember her being someone who was willing to let other people care for her a little bit. And there was another person that she had been traveling with, and he looked out for her, and she let him, and I was like, huh, how, how's that work? I don't, and she had a joy and, in a sense, a little bit of an energy of being like more carefree. And for whatever reason, that made a really big impression on me. So then fast forward like 10 or 15 years later, I also remember seeing on the Physician Mom group, Facebook group, that she had been on the Today Show, and I had started seeing her post in that group about MoneyFit and about financial wellness for physicians. And so then I was at that point where I was like, something needs to change and I need help doing this. And so I just emailed her I think I Facebook messaged her because I didn't have her email address. I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but we were in the same Spanish school in Guatemala a long time ago. And that's when she introduced me to the idea of the money school. And it was the first time that I had invested money in myself, learning something to what felt like me a significant financial investment outside of a university. Like, I have taken classes and I've, invested a lot in my brain and training and things like that. But the first time, outside of that, where I'm like, this is something for me. And so that's how I got started.
And do you think as women physicians, it's hard outside of medical school to feel like it's okay to invest in yourself in other ways, or asking for help in other ways?
I think, I think that we know that mentorship is extremely important, especially I work in an academic center, and mentorship is really, really important. Mentorship is different than coaching. Mm-hmm. And so I think that coaching was new to me at the time. And it's really valuable in a different way. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming more accepted and more well-known, and has different iterations. But I like also that it's very specific. Mm-hmm. And so, kind of what I think that brings is that everybody is there for a shared purpose. And you can be there for different parts of that shared purpose, but having some focus to it, I think, was really beneficial for me. And also in that shared learning environment, people are at different stages. And because of some of my financial limitations for the first year or so, I had to sit there and watch everybody have all these wins and things. And I was like, well, I'm still going to be here, and I'm going to continue to watch, and sometime it'll be my time. And when it's my time, I'll be ready. And that's what happened. And so I'm really thankful for it.
That's awesome. So you knew you needed help outside yourself. You got that help through the money school and Dr. Latifa. But you're saying that even the first year, you weren't where everyone else was at, but just being in that environment and watching these women make bold moves and it working for them kept you engaged, and you had the mindset of, that's going to be me someday.
Mm-hmm. And they were using vocabulary that I didn't I didn't even know what the words meant. I was Googling words that they were using. And then go from like that to now I'm doing some of the things that you know that they talked about, and I supplemented with some podcasts and things like that, but it also like it changed my focus.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been really helpful too. But I think definitely that peer group, and then just people doing things very actively,
Mm-hmm.
and making decisions and making moves. And then you would see like a week or two later, people would say like, well, and now I did this and this was the result. And sometimes it led to something awesome. And sometimes it led to something where they had to make another decision, and watching them sort through that. But also to see people that looked like me and not like me do like all doing those kind of things. I was like, oh, this is like, I can do this.
Yes, it is a very contagious environment. The group coaching is one thing, it's amazing, but just also being in the environment is super contagious and just helps you build the confidence. And I think it's a very authentic environment too, where you can be vulnerable. But for you specifically, was there a specific moment during a coaching or experience in the money school that was super impactful for you, that went from just watching to actually being someone that is also making big wins?
Yeah. Yeah. I can think of one specifically. So, during the money school, I went through the process of divorce. That was not easy. And I remember we're getting towards the end of settlement, and I was having a hard time communicating effectively with my attorney. And I remember during this one session, I was talking, and I used to talk about this. I mean, it's not, during divorce, you have to be somewhat careful about what you talk about and what you don't, especially in the Facebook environment. But I remember talking about how we weren't communicating effectively, and I wasn't getting my needs met, basically, is what the issue was. And Dr. Latifa said, she was like, Cara, it's like, if you're a hospitalist, right? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, if you go like call the cardiologist and you're not communicating effectively, and they write a note and they're like, well, just accept this, and your patient, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'm going to call them up. I'm going to tell them what I need for my patient. And I'm going to be very specific, and I'm going to tell, and I'm just not going to accept anything less, because I know how to advocate for my team and for my patient. And she said, you need to take that same energy that you're working with it, because I happen to be on service that way too. And so she said, your energy is different. You're like, you're up here with the cardiologist, and you're down here with your lawyer, and you need to bring your energy that you're talking with your lawyer, and you need to bring it up with the cardiologist. And she was right. And I did, and it worked. And I think that was really pivotal for me in terms of settling that, but also then how important the energy that I bring to whatever I'm doing really can affect my results.
And how did that make you feel, that moment you were able to effectively communicate and advocate for yourself as just Cara, not the doctor? How did that make you feel in that moment?
It made me feel like I could take care of myself and my kids, and that we were going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. So you built that confidence, that boss-like confidence that Dr. Latif was always talking about and encouraging. That is amazing. And I think a lot of people can relate that sometimes it's a lot easier to advocate for others than yourself. And Dr. Latif is very good at encouraging advocacy for yourself, and not being hesitant to ask for what you need and what you want. So let's talk a little bit about now you're winning. Now you are winning. Let's talk a little bit about more of your money journey inside the money school, when you started making moves and you started seeing things happen, wherever you want to start in that. Let's hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think that one of the biggest ones I've had is that I've created a strategy. I adjust it when needed, but then I kind of stick to it, and so one of the things that I knew was that in sort of reestablishing my life as a mom with a former spouse instead of a spouse, and with two kids that when I have them, I'm responsible for them, and I want to prioritize that time with them. So I don't want to and I will be the first to say there is nothing wrong with hiring childcare when you need it, and you should. When you're used to having your kids 100% of the time, and then that is significantly reduced, you kind of adjust your life, or at least I did, so that I could prioritize that time with them. And so I knew that in reestablishing my life, that I did want to make investments, but that I wanted to invest my time with healing myself and my kids, and not on active investments. So I started with passive real estate investments. I learned what a syndication was. I learned how to evaluate them. I invested in myself in another course, not because I couldn't learn the information on my own, but I recognized that I could learn it a lot faster, especially after having gone through the money school and the modules that I went through. I was able to go through them in, I think, like 3 weeks, because I did it pretty intensely. And I recognized how much longer it would have taken me to learn that subject area and that subject matter, when I could invest in myself and learn things much faster. So I did that. But I always knew that or at least I had this, like, sometimes it'll be like that idea back here, and like it just kind of sits there. And I thought that I wanted to do active real estate investments. And so it's kind of sat there until recently. I wanted to get everything set up and also be in a position where I could put adequate time and energy into it, so that it wasn't a burden, but it was a project that I actually want to work on. And so that's what I'm starting now. And in the process, I had organized, I got a new will done, and with an estate attorney. I found a financial advisor that I know and trust, and that was through this group. And we worked together from May through July or August, no, May through August, having meetings regularly to get everything sorted out, so that everything was working together well. And once that was done, I worked on learning to track my spending, because I recognized that if I'm going to start a business, that I need to track my own spending. If I can't track my own spending, then perhaps, how am I going to do that in a business? And my own spending is important enough if I'm going to track it in a business. And so once that all kind of, once I took care of all of those things, then I said, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for a new challenge, knowing that I might get into it and I might hate it. There's that possibility. I still might hate it. So far I like it, but, and then if I do, then I can change and move on.
This sounds like a very different Cara from the one we heard in the beginning, where you didn't even want to look at anything. You had fear over money. So what do you think is the biggest relationship change? So you had fear over it before, and you want to be invisible. What do you think is the biggest relationship change now that you feel? How do you feel about money now? Versus fear?
I feel like it's a tool, and I feel like I'm less likely to kind of hang on to it, and I'm more likely to kind of I view it as almost like letting it flow through, knowing that as it flow, as I invest and invest also in experiences that I want to have and that I want to share with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
That, like we've gone on several, like we love to travel. That's kind of what we do. That's our happy spot. And so we do more trips. And when we're on those trips, we do more things. And for instance, like we live in Ohio, and so it's a lower cost of living state. And we're going to go to New York City for Christmas. And we like the movie Elf. So we're going to do it just kind of like Elf.
That's awesome.
And I've bought tickets to a couple of shows, and when I, like pay for the tickets or whatever, I'm like, oh, those are expensive. And then I thought, but I live in Ohio, and so it's okay for me to like not get the day of tickets, so that we have a plan and we have the seats that we want because we enjoy a lower cost of living state. And so when we go and visit a more expensive state, we're going to go and we're going to have the experiences that we want to have. And I don't know that I would have done that before. I think I would have felt guilty about spending the money.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have just waited and then eventually spent it, but not with the same energy. I would have felt bad about it. And I don't think I feel bad about it anymore. I feel like I enjoy it. And I'm like, well, if I need to, like work a couple shifts or something like that for something that I want, that's different than trying to just not spend.
Yes, sounds like you're definitely on your journey to becoming the CEO, and not like what you said before, where it was kind of the CEO of you and controlling your moves. Now you're controlling it and moving it to align with your life and your goals. I have a question for you because I know there's a lot of single mamas out there that this would probably be helpful for. How has, now that you're a single mom, how has that impacted how you do finances? And is there any advice that you have when having to navigate that on your own now?
Yeah. I would say one of the biggest adjustments that I've had that initially was really hard. And now it's getting easier. And then I'm learning that there are some advantages of it. And that is that especially like when your kids are with you, they're just with you. And so you can't always delegate making, acquiring dinner, whether you're going to make it, whether you're going to, order takeout or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can't delegate that to somebody else. And and if they're asking you, mom, can I get this? Or mom, can I go do this? Or whatever. You can't say, well, go ask your other parent.
Yeah.
Because they're not there. And if you do, then that can cause actually more conflicts that you're going to have to deal with later. So I think that once you get used to just going ahead and making those decisions, it gets less tiring for one. But also then you realize that like, once you get more comfortable with it, you can always ask for someone else's help. And when I'm thinking, for financial decisions, like for instance, when in buying a house, a lot of times the way that people buy themselves some time in making decisions is they're like, well, I need to talk to my wife about that, or I need to talk to my husband about that. And that is the socially acceptable way to say, I need more time to make this decision. There is no reason why I can't say, well, I need to talk to my partner about that, but I don't do that I don't know. I feel like that kind of puts something out there that's not there because I don't have a partner right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. That's like what I've chosen. So I just say, well, I'm going to think on that. I'm going to consider that and I'll get back with you. And I think that being able to take that space and time is really nice. And also that I tend to make decisions then a little bit faster than the person that needs to consult their spouse. Whether they consult them or not, I'm not even really sure if people do that or not, if they just think about it and then get back to somebody. But it doesn't matter what it is. That like tends to be the kind of like knee-jerk reaction. And so if I want to, I can make the decision right then if it's clear to me. But also, like, I've learned to take the time because I'm someone that Dr. Latifat says I'm someone who needs to let things marinate for a while.
Mhm.
And I think that's okay because one of the things that I've started thinking about a lot is about intuition. And we talk about a gut feeling and things like that. And I rely on my intuition quite a bit to make decisions. But I've started thinking that it's not so much a gut feeling. It's like what I wonder is if it's our brain and we have picked up signs like different little pieces of information all the time that we can't always remember the very specifics of it. But in there, like up in there, like I talk about things being in like the annals of my mind, like when I'm on rounds or something. And I'll be like, it'll come to me in a few minutes. Like it's in the annals. Like somebody needs to go and retrieve it. Um, and it will come. So it makes me think that intuition is like there's all these things and they're back in the annals, and then your mind is actually putting them together, but it doesn't tell you all the details it's put together. It just gives you that gut feeling. And that's how you make that decision, so that your mind has actually paid attention to like a bunch of things that you don't remember anymore, and they're now in your subconscious. And that's where you make your decision from. And that actually makes me rely on my intuition even more because I trust my brain.
So good, Cara. Um, for people who are maybe where you started off, maybe they are thinking about needing help, or they're just tired of being stuck where they're at. What advice do you have for them for how the money school has benefited you and why it was such an important role in your money journey, and why that would be a good investment for them?
Mhm. I think the first one is that if if you kind of tap into your feelings and you're feeling shame, that is normal. And if you don't want to feel that shame, then one of the ways that you can handle it is by entering a group of in a non-judgmental space. That's what I found with the money school, is that it's a very non-judgmental space, that people can be and are vulnerable, and that we recognize that, there's a lot of emotion that comes with money. And I think too that it's like what I was saying with the course before, that if you want to up level faster and more efficiently, then this is certainly one way to do it. The other one is that once you get into a space where people are up leveling more than you thought possible, like then there's not a reason why you can't like up your goals. And so I think that's one of the things that I did too, is up my goals. And I don't think I'm done yet, like I think and I think there's goals out there that I still feel under equipped to kind of to think about yet, but that I think that that there's more out there for me.
I love that. Well, I know you're busy and I want to honor your time. So I just want to thank you so much for coming and sharing and being vulnerable. I know it's going to be super helpful for those who are either listening now or will listen, because this will be up. And we just thank you so much, Karen. We're so excited for all that you're doing and all your recent wins. And we do not doubt that those goals that are still up there will not be gone after eventually. And if you're watching and you want to know a little more about the money school, and if it is a right fit for you, just comment under the video and we'll send you a link to schedule a call with one of our team members to see if this is where you need to be to get past that rut and really start moving and accomplishing what you want. So thank you, Cara. Have an amazing day.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Bye.